Commander Sarah Mitchell had been dead for 3 years. At least that's what the official Navy record stated. Her name was etched on the memorial wall at Naval Special Warfare Command, right between 2 other fallen heroes. Her family had held a funeral with an empty casket. Her teammates had carried on missions while carrying the weight of her loss. The explosion in Afghanistan had been devastating. Sarah's team was conducting a high-priority rescue mission when their compound came under heavy fire. In the chaos, a rocket-propelled grenade struck the building where Sarah was providing overwatch. The entire structure collapsed, and when the dust settled, there was no trace of her body. Search teams combed through the rubble for days, but the Taliban had already moved in, making recovery impossible. Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison, Sarah's former second-in-command, now led the Elite SEAL Team 7. He carried the burden of that night with him every day. Sarah had been more than just his commanding officer. She had been his mentor, the person who taught him that leadership meant putting your team before yourself. No matter the cost, the team had changed since Sarah's loss. They were still effective, still among the Navy's best, but something was missing. That spark of innovation, the ability to think 3 steps ahead of the enemy, qualities that had made Sarah legendary among Special Operations Forces. On a cold Tuesday morning in Virginia Beach, Jake was reviewing mission files when his secure phone buzzed. The caller ID showed only a series of numbers he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Harrison," he said curtly. There was silence on the other end, then a voice that made his blood run cold. "Jake, it's me." The phone nearly slipped from his hands. That voice, he would know it anywhere. It was Sarah's voice, unmistakable despite the static on the line. "That's not possible," he whispered, his heart racing. "I know how this sounds. I know what you're thinking. But I need you to listen carefully. I can't explain everything over the phone, but I'm alive, Jake. I've been alive this whole time." Jake's mind raced through 1,000 possibilities, each one seeming more impossible than the last. "Where are you? How is this real? I'll explain everything when I see you. But right now I need you to trust me like you always have. There's something bigger happening here, something that goes beyond what happened to me in Afghanistan. The Navy is in danger, Jake. Our teams, our missions, everything we've worked for is at risk." The line crackled with interference, and Sarah's voice became urgent. "I need you to meet me tonight. Pier 9 at the Norfolk base, 2300 hours. Come alone, and Jake, don't tell anyone about this call, not yet. There are people watching, people who think I'm still dead, and it needs to stay that way until I can explain." Before Jake could respond, the line went dead. He stared at the phone, wondering if he was losing his mind. 3 years of grief, 3 years of guilt over not being able to save her. Maybe it was finally catching up with him. But deep down, he knew that voice. He knew Sarah better than anyone, and despite the impossibility of it all, every instinct told him she was alive. That evening, Jake found himself walking toward Pier 9, his service weapon concealed under his jacket. The Norfolk Naval Base was quiet at this hour, with only the sound of water lapping against the dock and the distant hum of security patrols. He checked his watch, 22:95 hours. She would be here soon if she was really coming. A figure emerged from the shadows near the end of the pier. Even in the dim light, Jake recognized her immediately. It was Sarah, older, leaner, with new scars across her face and arms, but unmistakably her. She moved with the same quiet confidence that had made her such an effective leader. "Hello, Jake," she said simply. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Jake felt like he was seeing a ghost, which in many ways he was. "How?" was all he managed to say. Sarah looked out over the dark water before answering. "The explosion didn't kill me. It should have, but I was thrown clear at the last second. I was badly injured, unconscious when Taliban fighters found me. They didn't know who I was, just another American soldier to them." She paused, her expression hardening. "They kept me prisoner for 8 months. I won't go into details about what happened during that time, but eventually I escaped. By then I had learned something that changed everything. The mission that night, the one where I supposedly died, it was compromised from the inside." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean compromised?" "Someone in our command structure sold us out. Someone with high-level access gave the Taliban our exact location, our timing, everything. My team walked into a trap, and whoever set it up made sure there would be no survivors to tell the story." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. If Sarah was right, it meant that someone within the Navy's Special Operations Command was working with the enemy. Someone they trusted, someone who had access to their most sensitive missions. Why didn't you come back? Why stay dead for 3 years? Sarah turned to face him directly. Because I needed time to find out who was responsible. And because staying dead gave me something I could never have as Commander Mitchell. Complete freedom to operate outside the system. For 3 years I've been tracking down leads, building evidence, working with allies in places the Navy doesn't even know exist. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. Everything I've learned is in here. Names, dates, financial records, communications. The conspiracy goes deeper than either of us imagined, Jake. It's not just one person. It's a network, and they've been selling out American operations for years. Jake took the envelope with shaking hands. What do you need from me? I need my team back, Sarah said. But more than that, I need people I can trust absolutely. The Navy is going to ask me to prove who I am, to explain where I've been. They're going to want to debrief me, to bring me back into the fold officially. And the moment they do that, the people responsible for this will know I'm alive. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I'm going to surface tomorrow, Jake. I'm going to walk into Admiral Peterson's office and tell him I'm alive. But before I do that, I need to know that you and the team are ready for what comes next. Because once I'm officially back from the dead, we're going to have a very small window to act before the conspirators realize their secret is out. The weight of what Sarah was asking settled on Jake's shoulders. She wasn't just asking him to believe an impossible story. She was asking him to help her take down what might be the biggest betrayal in Navy history. What's the plan? He asked. Sarah smiled for the first time since she'd appeared, and for a moment she looked like the commander he remembered. We're going to do what we've always done best, Jake. We're going to complete the mission. Admiral Robert Peterson was reviewing morning intelligence reports when his aide knocked on the office door. It was 800 hours sharp, and the Admiral prided himself on maintaining a precise schedule. He had been commander of Naval Special Warfare Command for 6 years, overseeing some of the military's most sensitive operations. Enter, he called out, not looking up from his papers. Sir, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent and classified. She won't give her name to anyone but you. Peterson frowned. Unscheduled visitors were rare in his position, especially ones who insisted on anonymity. Send her in, but have security standing by. The door opened and a woman in civilian clothes entered. She was tall, athletic with short dark hair and scars that spoke of combat experience. Something about her seemed familiar, but Peterson couldn't place her. Admiral Peterson, she said, standing at attention despite her civilian attire. Commander Sarah Mitchell reporting for duty, sir. The color drained from Peterson's face. He had personally signed Sarah Mitchell's death certificate 3 years ago. He had spoken at her memorial service, had consoled her family, had watched her team struggle with the loss of their leader. That's impossible, he whispered, reaching for his desk phone. Sir, before you call security, I need you to look at this. Sarah reached slowly into her jacket and produced a set of dog tags. She placed them on his desk. Her dog tags, the ones that should have been buried with military honors. Peterson picked them up with trembling hands. The serial number, the blood type, even the small dent from a training accident 5 years ago. Everything matched his records perfectly. How is this possible? We searched for weeks. There was no body, but the building collapsed, the intelligence reports, everything indicated no survivors. Sarah remained at attention as she spoke. I was captured, sir. Held prisoner by Taliban forces for 8 months before I could escape. I've spent the last 2.5 years conducting an unofficial investigation into the circumstances of that mission. Why didn't you contact us immediately after your escape? Do you have any idea what your team has been through? What your family has endured? Sir, with respect, I had to remain dead because the mission that night was compromised from within our own command structure. Someone with access to classified mission parameters sold out my team. If I had surfaced immediately, whoever was responsible would have had the opportunity to eliminate me permanently. Peterson sank into his chair, the implications of Sarah's words hitting him like a physical blow. That's a serious accusation, Commander. Do you have proof? Sarah reached into her other pocket and produced a flash drive. Everything is on here, sir. Financial records, communications intercepts, timeline analysis. For 3 years, I've been building a case against a network of individuals who have been selling American military intelligence to hostile forces. The Admiral inserted the drive into his secure computer terminal. As files began to populate on his screen, his expression grew increasingly grave. Bank account numbers, encrypted communications, detailed mission briefings that had somehow found their way to enemy hands. My God, he breathed. If this is accurate, it means dozens of operations have been compromised. American lives lost because of betrayal from within our own ranks. Yes, sir. And the network is still active. Even as we speak, they're planning to sell intelligence about upcoming SEAL operations in the Pacific Theater. Peterson stood and began pacing behind his desk. Who else knows you're alive? Currently, only Lieutenant Commander Harrison knows. I contacted him last night to prepare him for my return. Sir, I need to ask you directly. Can I trust you completely? Because if word of my survival reaches the wrong people before we can act, this entire investigation will be for nothing. The Admiral stopped pacing and looked directly at Sarah. Commander Mitchell, if what you're telling me is true, then this command has been infiltrated by traitors who have blood on their hands. You have my word and my complete support. Thank you, sir. I have a plan, but it will require your authorization and the cooperation of Team 7. Peterson nodded. What do you need? I need to be officially reinstated, but quietly. No announcements, no paperwork that goes through normal channels. As far as the official record is concerned, I'm taking extended medical leave while being debriefed about my captivity. Meanwhile, I need operational authority to conduct a sting operation. What kind of sting operation? Sarah moved to the window, looking out at the base where she had trained and served for so many years. We're going to feed false intelligence to the suspected compromised channels. Fake mission parameters for a high-value operation. When that intelligence gets sold to enemy forces, we'll be able to track exactly how it moves through the network and identify everyone involved. That's risky. If we're wrong about who we can trust, we could be walking into another trap. Sir, with respect, we're already in a trap. The only question is whether we spring it on our terms or theirs. Peterson considered this for several long moments. What about your team? They believe you're dead. The psychological impact of your return could affect their operational readiness. That's why I need to brief them personally. Jake Harrison has been carrying the burden of that night for 3 years. My entire team has been operating under the weight of my supposed death. They deserve to know the truth, and I need them to understand what we're really fighting against. The Admiral returned to his desk and pulled out a secure phone. I'm going to make some calls. We'll need to establish a compartmentalized unit for this operation. No one outside of essential personnel can know you're alive until we've identified and neutralized the security breach. Over the next hour, Peterson made several carefully worded phone calls to trusted allies within the military intelligence community. Sarah provided additional details about her investigation, including the identities of several suspects she had been monitoring. There's something else you need to know. Sir, Sarah said as they wrapped up their initial planning session. During my captivity, I learned that this isn't just about selling mission intelligence. The network has been working to identify and eliminate specific SEAL team members who they consider threats to their operations. Are you saying they've been targeting our people for assassination? Yes, sir. The explosion that was supposed to kill me wasn't random. Someone wanted me dead specifically because I was getting too close to uncovering irregularities in our mission assignments. There are at least 3 other SEAL deaths in the past 5 years that I believe were actually targeted killings, disguised as combat casualties. Peterson felt a chill run down his spine. Who else is at risk? Anyone who has been investigating operational security breaches. Anyone who has raised questions about mission planning. And especially anyone who might have information that could expose the network. Including Lieutenant Commander Harrison. Sarah nodded grimly. Jake has been asking questions about that night in Afghanistan. He's been reviewing mission records, trying to understand what went wrong. If the conspirators realize he's getting close to the truth, they'll move against him. Then we need to move fast. How long do you need to brief your team? Give me 24 hours with Team 7. I need to bring them up to speed and prepare them for what's coming. After that, we can begin the sting operation. Peterson stood and extended his hand. Welcome back from the dead, Commander Mitchell. Let's go catch some traitors. As Sarah shook his hand, she felt the weight of 3 years of investigation and planning settling on her shoulders. Tomorrow she would face her team, the people who had mourned her death and carried on without her. She would have to explain not just where she had been, but why she had let them believe she was dead. But first, they had to survive long enough to expose the conspiracy that had torn their unit apart and betrayed everything they had sworn to protect. The mission was just beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. The Team 7 briefing room felt different that morning. Jake Harrison had called an emergency meeting, telling his team only that they needed to discuss a classified development that would affect their next mission. The 5 remaining members of the team sat around the familiar table, drinking coffee and making small talk, unaware that their world was about to change forever. Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez checked his watch. "LT, you said 900 sharp. What's this about?" Before Jake could answer, the door opened and Sarah Mitchell walked in. The room went completely silent. Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. Chief Petty Officer David Kim dropped his pen. Petty Officer Second Class Tyler Brooks actually stood up from his chair, his mouth open in shock. "Jesus Christ," whispered Hospital Corpsman Second Class Maria Santos, the team's medic. "That's not possible." Sarah stood at the front of the room wearing Navy fatigues with her commander's insignia. She looked older, marked by experiences none of them could imagine, but she was unmistakably their former leader. "Good morning, Team 7, she said quietly. Marcus was the first to find his voice. "Ma'am, you're dead. We were at your memorial service. Your name is on the wall. I understand this is difficult to process. For the past 3 years, I've been officially listed as killed in action, but I'm very much alive and I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you." Tyler shook his head, still staring. "This is impossible." The building collapsed. "We searched for days. The building did collapse. I was thrown clear by the initial explosion, but I was unconscious and badly injured when Taliban fighters found me. They took me prisoner, and for 8 months I was held in various locations throughout Afghanistan." David Kim leaned forward. "Why didn't you signal for extraction?" "We had assets in the area for weeks after the mission. Because during my captivity I learned something that changed everything. Our mission that night was compromised from the inside. Someone in our command structure sold us out to the Taliban. The attack on our position wasn't random. It was a carefully planned ambush designed to eliminate our entire team." The weight of Sarah's words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. These were professionals who had faced enemy fire, who had lost teammates before, but the idea that they had been betrayed by their own side was almost incomprehensible. Maria broke the silence. "You're saying someone in the Navy set us up to die?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. After I escaped, I could have returned immediately, but I realized that whoever was responsible would simply try again. So I stayed dead while I investigated." Jake finally spoke up. "The evidence she's gathered over the past 3 years is extensive. Financial records, communications, operational details that could only have come from inside our command structure." "Who?" Marcus asked, his voice hard with anger. "Who sold us out?" Sarah moved to the whiteboard and began writing names and connections. "It's not just one person. It's a network that includes personnel from Naval Special Warfare Command, Defense Intelligence Agency, and at least 2 private military contractors. They've been selling American operational intelligence for years." She turned back to face her team. "The explosion that was supposed to kill me wasn't their first success. Over the past 5 years, at least 3 other SEAL deaths that were attributed to combat losses were actually targeted assassinations of people who were getting too close to the truth." Tyler slammed his fist on the table. "Those were our brothers. People we served with, people we trusted our lives to. I know, and that's why we're going to stop them." David Kim studied the information on the whiteboard. "What's the plan, ma'am?" "We're going to conduct a sting operation. We're going to feed false intelligence through the suspected compromised channels and track exactly how it moves through the network. When the intelligence gets sold to hostile forces, we'll be able to identify everyone involved." "What kind of false intelligence?" Maria asked. Jake stepped forward. "We're going to create a fake high-value target mission in the South China Sea. Complete operational parameters, timing, personnel assignments, everything. The intelligence will be so valuable that the network won't be able to resist selling it. And when they do," Sarah continued, "we'll be watching every step of the transaction. We'll identify the sellers, the buyers, and everyone in between." Marcus looked skeptical. "That's a lot of moving parts. What if something goes wrong? What if they realize it's a setup?" "Then we'll be ready for them," Sarah said. "But Marcus, we can't continue operating as long as this network exists. Every mission we run, every operation we plan is potentially compromised. Our enemies know where we're going before we get there." The room fell silent as the team processed the full implications of what Sarah was telling them. They had been operating in a combat environment where the enemy always seemed one step ahead, where too many missions had gone wrong in ways that didn't make sense. "There's something else," Sarah said. "The network has been specifically targeting team members who might pose a threat to their operations. Jake, you've been asking questions about that night in Afghanistan. You've been reviewing mission records trying to understand what went wrong." Jake felt his blood run cold. "You think they're planning to move against me?" "I think anyone on this team who gets too close to the truth is at risk. That's why we need to move fast and work together." Tyler stood up and began pacing. "So what you're telling us is that for 3 years we've been grieving your death, carrying the guilt of not being able to save you, while you were out there hunting the people who tried to kill us all." "Tyler, I know how this must feel. I know what you've all been through. If there had been any other way to conduct this investigation without putting you at risk, I would have taken it. But there wasn't," Jake said firmly. If Sarah had surfaced immediately after her escape, the conspirators would have known their secret was out. They would have eliminated her and covered their tracks. Maria looked at Sarah with a mixture of anger and relief. "Do you have any idea what the past 3 years have been like? Knowing that we failed to protect our commanding officer? Carrying that weight into every mission?" "I do know," Sarah replied. "And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the pain my disappearance caused, and I'm sorry for letting you believe I was dead. But I need you to understand that everything I've done for the past 3 years has been to protect this team and expose the people who betrayed us." David Kim stood up and moved to the whiteboard, studying the network diagram Sarah had drawn. "Assuming we go through with this operation, what's our cover story? How do we explain your return to the rest of the base? Officially, I'm on extended medical leave while being debriefed about my captivity. Only Admiral Peterson, this team, and a small group of intelligence analysts know the truth about the investigation." Marcus crossed his arms. "And if this sting operation goes wrong? If the network realizes what we're doing?" Sarah met his gaze directly. "Then we'll be ready for a fight." "But Marcus, we're already in a fight. The only question is whether we're going to be victims or whether we're going to take control and finish this." The team exchanged glances, communicating with the silent language that came from years of operating together in high-stress situations. Finally, Tyler stopped pacing and turned to face Sarah. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you put us through hell for 3 years. But if what you're saying is true, then we've got traitors to catch and brothers to avenge." He stood at attention. "Team 7 is ready to complete the mission." One by one, the other team members stood and assumed the same position. "Good," Sarah said, feeling a surge of pride and relief. "Because we start tomorrow, and once we begin, there's no turning back." The fabricated mission briefing was a masterpiece of deception. Codenamed Operation Neptune's Trident, it detailed a high-value target elimination mission in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. According to the false intelligence, a Chinese military commander responsible for coordinating attacks on American shipping would be traveling aboard a specific vessel at a predetermined time and location. Sarah sat in the secure planning room with Jake and 2 trusted intelligence analysts, putting the finishing touches on documents that would soon be fed into the compromised communication channels. Every detail had to be perfect, realistic enough to be believable, valuable enough to be irresistible to the spy network. "The target vessel specifications check out," reported Senior Chief Intelligence Specialist Amanda Chen. "We've used real Chinese naval architecture, real personnel files for the supposed high-value target. If someone runs verification checks, everything will appear legitimate." "What about the operational timeline?" Jake asked. 48 hours from the moment this intelligence hits the compromised channel," Sarah replied. "That gives the network enough time to verify and sell the information, but not enough time for them to conduct extensive background checks that might reveal the deception." Chief Warrant Officer Robert Martinez, their electronic warfare specialist, looked up from his computer terminal.
"The monitoring equipment is in place.
We've got surveillance on all suspected communication channels, financial tracking on the suspected bank accounts, and signal intercepts on known meeting locations." Sarah reviewed the mission parameters one final time. "Remember, once we introduce this intelligence into the system, we're committed. The network will begin moving information immediately, and we need to track every transaction, every communication, every handoff." "What about operational security for the actual team?" Jake asked. If the network realizes this is a setup, they might try to eliminate us directly. Team 7 will be operating under full security protocols. We've arranged for temporary relocation to a safe house off base. All communications will be encrypted and monitored. No one operates alone. Amanda Chen highlighted a section of the false briefing. The beauty of this operation is that we've built in multiple verification points. The network will have to contact several different sources to confirm the intelligence, and we'll be watching every one of those contacts. At 1400 hours, Sarah took a deep breath and activated the first phase of the operation. She sent the fabricated Neptune's Trident briefing through Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Wright's communication channel. Wright was a staff officer in Naval Special Warfare Command who had access to classified mission planning, and Sarah's investigation had identified her as a suspected link in the spy network. Intelligence is now in play, Sarah announced. Monitoring stations. Report status. Signal intercept active, Martinez confirmed. Financial surveillance online, Chen added. Physical surveillance teams in position, Jake reported. Within 2 hours, their monitoring equipment detected the first hit. Wright had forwarded the Neptune's Trident briefing to an encrypted email address that Sarah's investigation had linked to a Defense Intelligence Agency analyst named Captain Michael Torres. First, handoff confirmed, Martinez announced. Wright to Torres transmitted at 16:23 hours. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. After 3 years of investigation, she was finally watching the spy network in action in real time. 3 hours later, Torres made contact with someone outside the military structure entirely. The encrypted communication went to a private email account registered to Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, a consultant for Meridian Defense Solutions, one of the private military contractors on Sarah's suspect list. Second handoff confirmed, Chen reported. Torres to Hawkins transmitted at 18:47 hours. By evening, the fabricated intelligence had moved through 4 different handlers, each one adding their own layer of verification and modification. The financial surveillance team detected 2 separate payments, one from Torres to an offshore account, another from Hawkins to what appeared to be a shell company based in Cyprus. They're treating this like high-priority intelligence, Jake observed. The speed of transmission and the financial transactions suggest they believe Neptune's Trident is extremely valuable. Sarah studied the developing network map on their main screen. That's good for us. The higher the value they place on the intelligence, the more resources they'll commit to selling it, and the more opportunities we'll have to identify their contacts. At 2130 hours, Martinez detected an unusual signal pattern. Commander, we've got international communication. Someone just transmitted the Neptune's Trident briefing to a location in Eastern Europe. Can you pinpoint the destination? Working on it. Got it. The transmission went to a known front company for foreign intelligence services. Someone just sold operational details about a fake American military mission to a hostile foreign power. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just dealing with people selling information. For money, they were dealing with a sophisticated espionage network that was actively working with enemy intelligence services. How? Long before the Foreign Intelligence Service realizes the mission is fake? Jake asked. Chen pulled up her analysis. Based on their typical verification procedures, probably 12 to 18 hours. They'll run the intelligence through their own sources, try to confirm vessel movements, cross-check personnel assignments, which means we have until tomorrow afternoon to complete our identification of the network, Sarah said. After that, they'll know they've been fed false information. At 0300 hours, their surveillance teams reported suspicious activity at 3 different locations. Cars arriving at predetermined meeting spots, encrypted phone calls between known associates, financial transfers between accounts they had been monitoring. They're moving fast, Martinez observed. This level of activity suggests the network is larger than we initially estimated. Sarah was studying the financial transaction patterns when something caught her attention. Wait, look at this payment routing. The money isn't just going to individual accounts, it's being funneled through a central distribution system. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means someone is running this operation like a business. There's a central authority coordinating the spy network, managing the financial side, probably making decisions about which intelligence to prioritize. Chen enhanced the financial tracking display. If we can identify the central distribution point, we can potentially identify the person or organization running the entire network. How close are we to that identification? Based on the routing patterns, very close. I estimate we'll have the central node identified within the next 6 hours. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were closer to solving the mystery that had driven her investigation for 3 years, but they were also approaching the most dangerous phase of the operation. Jake, I want Team 7 on full alert status. Once we identify the central authority, they're going to realize their network has been compromised. They'll either try to eliminate all evidence or they'll try to eliminate us. Understood. The team is ready for either scenario. As dawn approached, Sarah watched the final pieces of the puzzle falling into place. The spy network that had betrayed her team, that had gotten good people killed, that had put American lives at risk for money. It was finally being exposed. But she also knew that the most dangerous part of the mission was just beginning. At 0847 hours, Amanda Chen's financial analysis program finally identified the central distribution node. The discovery sent shockwaves through the monitoring room that would have been impossible to predict. "Commander, you need to see this," Chen said, her voice tight with disbelief. Sarah moved to Chen's workstation and stared at the screen. The Central Financial Authority coordinating the entire spy network was traced to an account controlled by Rear Admiral Jonathan Pierce, Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare Command. "That's impossible," Jake breathed, looking over Sarah's shoulder. "Admiral Pierce has been with Spec War for 15 years. He's been responsible for some of our most successful operations." "The financial trail doesn't lie," Chen replied. "Every payment, every transaction, every distribution of funds from the spy network ultimately flows through accounts that Pierce controls." Sarah felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Admiral Pierce had been her mentor when she was coming up through the ranks. He had personally recommended her for command of Team 7. He had spoken at her memorial service. "Run the analysis again," she ordered. "Double-check everything." 20 minutes later, Chen confirmed her findings. "It's definitely Pierce. The financial patterns go back almost 6 years. He's been running this operation since before he was promoted to deputy commander." Martinez looked up from his communication intercepts. "That explains how the network has been so successful. Pierce has access to operational planning at the highest levels. He knows which missions are being planned, which teams are being assigned, which intelligence is most valuable. It also explains why so many of our operations have been compromised," Jake added grimly. "Pierce has been in the room for every major strategic planning session for the past 3 years." Sarah began pacing, her mind racing through the implications. If Pierce is running the network, then he knows we're investigating. He has access to Admiral Peterson's communications, to our operational reports, to everything. "Ma'am," Chen interrupted. "We're receiving urgent signals traffic. Pierce just sent encrypted communications to all known network members." "What's the content?" Martinez worked to decrypt the messages. "It's a burn notice. He's ordering immediate termination of all operations, destruction of all evidence, and elimination of security threats." "Security threats meaning us," Jake said. "Specifically meaning you, Commander," Chen said, highlighting a section of the intercepted communication. "Pierce has identified you as the primary threat to the network. He's ordered your immediate elimination." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What about the rest of Team 7? "The order includes elimination of all personnel with knowledge of the investigation." Jake was already reaching for his radio. "Team 7, this is Harrison. Code red, immediate extraction to Rally Point Alpha. We are compromised. Repeat, we are compromised." Over the radio came Marcus Rodriguez's voice. "Copy, LT, but we've got a problem. We're seeing movement around the safe house. Multiple vehicles, armed personnel. Looks like they found us." Sarah grabbed the radio. "Marcus, this is Mitchell."
How many hostiles?
"At least 8 that we can see, ma'am. They've got the building surrounded. Professional movement, military equipment. These aren't random criminals. Can you reach the extraction point?" "Negative. They've got overwatch positions, covering all the exits." Sarah turned to Jake. "Pierce isn't just burning the network. He's trying to eliminate all witnesses immediately." "David," Kim's voice crackled over the radio. "Commander, we're seeing sniper positions being established. Whoever these guys are, they're here to make sure none of us leave." Chen looked up from her monitoring station. "I'm detecting communication between the assault team and Pierce's location." He's personally coordinating the attack. Sarah made a quick decision. Jake, take Martinez and Chen and get to Admiral Peterson. Brief him on what we've discovered and get him to initiate arrest procedures for Pierce. I'm going to extract Team 7. Ma'am, with respect, that's suicide. Pierce has an entire assault team surrounding that building. Jake, those are my people in there. I'm not leaving them. Then we go together. Sarah shook her head. No, if both of us get killed, Pierce wins. He eliminates all evidence of the investigation and continues running his spy network. You need to get to Peterson and make sure Pierce is arrested. Over the radio, Tyler Brooks reported, Commander, they're moving to assault positions. We estimate 3 minutes before they breach. Sarah grabbed her gear and headed for the door. Jake, that's an order. Get to Peterson and make sure Pierce doesn't escape. Yes, ma'am. But Sarah, bring our team home. Sarah was already running toward the motor pool. She commandeered a fast assault vehicle and raced toward the safe house, her mind calculating approach routes and tactical options. Team 7 was trapped in a building surrounded by professional killers, and she was their only immediate hope for extraction. As she drove, she used her secure radio to contact the team. Team 7, this is Mitchell. I'm en route to your position. What's your current status? Maria Santos answered. Ma'am, we've fortified the upper floor, but they're preparing to breach from multiple directions. We count at least 10 hostiles now, plus sniper support. Any civilian casualties? Negative. The building was evacuated before they arrived. Someone tipped them off that we were here. Sarah felt another surge of anger at Pierce's betrayal. Not only had he sold out American operations for money, but he was now trying to murder the people who had discovered his crimes. Team 7, listen carefully. I need you to create a distraction on the north side of the building in exactly 4 minutes. Small arms fire. Maybe a flashbang if you have one. Make them think you're trying to break out in that direction. Copy, ma'am. What's your plan? I'm going to give them something more important to worry about than you. Sarah reached the area around the safe house and could see the assault team positions. Pierce had deployed professional military contractors, probably from one of the private companies that was part of his spy network. They had excellent equipment and tactical positioning, but they weren't expecting a frontal assault by a single highly motivated SEAL commander. Sarah checked her equipment: assault rifle, sidearm, flashbangs, smoke grenades, and a few other items that would help even the odds. She positioned her vehicle for maximum impact and waited for Team 7's distraction. At exactly the predetermined time, gunfire erupted from the north side of the building. The assault team immediately shifted their attention and began moving toward what they thought was an escape attempt. Sarah gunned her vehicle and drove straight into the rear of their perimeter, firing her assault rifle through the windshield and throwing flashbangs as she crashed through their defensive line. The surprise was complete. Half of the assault team was suddenly taking fire from an unexpected direction while being blinded by flashbang grenades. Team 7, move now, Sarah yelled into her radio. South exit vehicles are approaching your position. As her team began their extraction, Sarah continued her assault on the contractor positions, using speed and surprise to disrupt their coordination. But she knew this was just the beginning. Pierce was still out there, still in command of Naval Special Warfare Resources, and still determined to eliminate everyone who knew about his crimes. The real battle was just starting. The extraction was successful, but barely. Sarah managed to get Team 7 clear of the safe house, but not before losing their secure communications equipment and most of their surveillance gear to the assault team's overwhelming firepower. As they regrouped at a secondary location, Jake Harrison arrived with grim news. Admiral Peterson is dead, he announced without preamble. The words hit the team like a physical blow. Sarah felt the world shift around her as the implications became clear. How? She asked quietly. Apparent heart attack in his office 45 minutes ago, but the base medical examiner found traces of a fast-acting cardiac toxin in his system. Pierce had him murdered before we could brief him on the investigation. Marcus slammed his fist against the wall. So Pierce knows we're onto him. Peterson is dead and we just lost all our evidence in that attack. Not all of it, Amanda Chen said, holding up a portable hard drive. I managed to download the critical files before we abandoned the monitoring station. Financial records, communication intercepts, the complete network analysis. Sarah took the drive and studied it. This is enough to expose Pierce and the entire spy network, but we need someone in authority to act on it. With Peterson dead, who do we trust? Jake pulled out his phone. I made contact with General Patricia Hayes at Joint Special Operations Command before coming here. She was Peterson's contact at the Pentagon for sensitive operations. Peterson had briefed her about unusual security concerns, though he hadn't shared the details of our investigation yet. Can we trust her? She's been with JSOC for 12 years, clean record, no financial irregularities. More importantly, she's outside of Pierce's direct chain of command and influence. Tyler Brooks looked out the window of their temporary hideout. We need to move fast. Pierce knows we're alive, knows we have evidence against him. He'll be working to cover his tracks and eliminate us before we can reach anyone in authority. He's also got resources we don't, David Kim added. Access to military personnel, private contractors, classified location information. He knows where we live, where we work, where we might try to hide. Sarah began formulating a plan. We can't run from Pierce indefinitely, and we can't trust normal military channels while he's still in command. We need to force a confrontation on our terms. What kind of confrontation? Maria Santos asked. We're going to arrest him ourselves. The team stared at her in silence for a moment before Jake spoke up. Ma'am, with all due respect, Pierce is a rear admiral in the United States Navy. We can't just walk into his office and slap handcuffs on him. Why not? We have evidence of treason, murder, and conspiracy. We have proof that he's been selling American military secrets to hostile foreign powers. If we present that evidence while placing him under citizen's arrest, any court in the country will support our actions. Marcus looked skeptical.
And if he refuses to come quietly?
If he calls security? If he tries to have us arrested? Then we present the evidence publicly, Sarah replied. We take it to the media, to Congress, to anyone who will listen. Pierce's power depends on secrecy. Once his crimes are exposed publicly, he loses all ability to operate. Chen was already working on her laptop. I can prepare a comprehensive evidence package that could be transmitted to multiple media outlets simultaneously if needed. Financial documents, recorded conversations, timeline analysis showing the connection between Pierce's actions and American military casualties. How do we get close enough to Pierce to arrest him? Tyler asked. Sarah smiled grimly. He thinks I'm dead, remember? As far as Pierce knows, I was killed in the assault on the safe house along with the rest of Team 7. He's probably already reporting our deaths to his contacts, claiming that the security threat has been eliminated. So we use that assumption against him, Jake said, understanding her plan. Exactly. Pierce will be feeling confident, thinking he's successfully covered up his crimes. He'll return to his normal routine, his normal security protocols. That's when we take him. Over the next 6 hours, Team 7 planned what would arguably be the most audacious operation in their careers. They would infiltrate Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters, confront Pierce in his office, and place him under arrest while simultaneously transmitting evidence of his crimes to multiple external contacts. At 0400 hours, Sarah led her team onto the base using legitimate credentials that Pierce hadn't yet had time to revoke. They moved through familiar corridors like ghosts, using their knowledge of security procedures and shift changes to avoid detection. Pierce's office was on the 3rd floor of the command building, accessed through an outer reception area and protected by standard security measures. At this hour, only a skeleton staff was on duty, and most of the administrative offices were empty. Sarah positioned Marcus and Tyler to control the elevator and stairwell access. David Kim and Maria Santos established overwatch positions to monitor base security responses. Jake and Chen accompanied Sarah to Pierce's office. They found Pierce working late, reviewing what appeared to be damage control documents related to the day's events. He looked up in shock when Sarah walked through his door. That's impossible, he breathed. You're dead. My people confirmed it. Your people were wrong, Admiral, Sarah replied, keeping her weapon trained on him while Jake secured the door. Rear Admiral Jonathan Pierce, by the authority granted to me as a United States Navy officer and citizen, I am placing you under arrest for treason, murder, conspiracy, and violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Pierce's initial shock quickly gave way to cold calculation. You have no authority to arrest me, Commander. You're not even officially alive according to Navy records. Anything you think you've discovered about my activities is meaningless without proper chain of custody and legal authorization. Chen was already uploading files to multiple secure servers. The evidence is being transmitted as we speak, Admiral. Financial records showing your control of the spy network, communication intercepts proving your coordination with foreign intelligence services, timeline analysis connecting your actions to American military casualties. Even if you had such evidence, which I doubt you'll never live to present it in court, Pierce said with disturbing calm, base security will respond to reports of armed intruders in my office. You'll be shot as terrorists before you can explain your presence here. That's why we're not waiting around, Sarah replied. She activated her radio. General Hayes, this is Commander Mitchell. Package is secured and ready for transfer. Pierce's expression changed to one of genuine surprise as General Hayes's voice came through the radio. Copy, Commander. Federal marshals are entering the building now to take custody of the prisoner. You contacted JSOC? Pierce asked, his confidence finally wavering. Admiral Peterson briefed General Hayes about security concerns before you had him murdered, Jake explained. When we presented our evidence to her, she coordinated with federal authorities to ensure your arrest would be handled properly. The sound of multiple footsteps in the corridor announced the arrival of the federal marshals, accompanied by Naval Criminal Investigative Service agents and base security personnel who were not part of Pierce's network. As the marshals placed handcuffs on Pierce, he looked directly at Sarah. You think this ends anything? You think taking me down stops what we've built? There are others, Mitchell. People in positions you can't imagine, with resources you can't touch. Then we'll find them too, Sarah replied simply. 3 months later, Sarah stood in front of Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters, officially reinstated to active duty and promoted to the rank of captain. Pierce's arrest had led to a comprehensive investigation that resulted in the exposure and prosecution of the entire spy network. 17 military personnel, 12 defense contractors, and 5 foreign intelligence operatives had been arrested. Jake Harrison approached, now wearing the insignia of a full commander and leader of the reformed Team 7. The new security protocols are in place, he reported. Enhanced background checks, improved communication security, compartmentalized planning procedures. It's going to be much harder for anyone to compromise our operations in the future. Sarah nodded, looking out at the base where she had served for so many years. And the team? Ready for whatever comes next, ma'am. Marcus got his promotion to senior chief. Tyler and David both made chief. Maria is being considered for officer candidate school. They're good people, and they're ready to get back to work. Good. Because there's always another mission waiting. As Sarah walked back toward the building, she reflected on the journey that had brought her back from the dead. 3 years of investigation, betrayal, loss, and ultimately justice. She had returned not just to clear her name, but to protect the institution she loved and the people she served with. The ghost had returned to lead the Navy SEALs, and she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.